Two people buy the exact same car on the exact same day. Same model, same engine, same mileage. 10 years later, one car has over 300,000 miles and is still running strong. The other needed a new engine before reaching 120,000. And here's the shocking part. The difference wasn't the brand. It wasn't luck. And it wasn't because one owner spent thousands more on maintenance. The real reason is something most drivers unknowingly do every single day, slowly cutting years off their engine's life without ever seeing a warning light. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some ordinary cars become legendary for their reliability, while others turn into expensive nightmares long before they should. And the final secret is the same principle many high-mileage fleet owners rely on to keep their vehicles on the road year after year. The strange thing is that most engines don't fail because of one dramatic breakdown. In many cases, the damage begins years earlier through tiny habits so ordinary that millions of drivers repeat them every single day without giving them a second thought. A few extra seconds here, one ignored warning there, one harmless-looking routine repeated thousands of times, and slowly the engine starts wearing itself out from the inside long before anything sounds wrong or a warning light appears. By the time the first real symptom shows up, the expensive damage may have already been building for years. And the final habit you'll discover today is one reason some fleet vehicles cross 500,000 miles without major engine work while others never come close. But before we get there, let's start with the first mistake, a habit that quietly shortens the life of millions of cars every single day. Secret number 1. Small maintenance becomes big mileage. Most engines don't fail because of one catastrophic breakdown. They fail because of tiny problems that owners keep driving with for weeks, months, or even years. In fact, some of the most expensive repairs mechanics see every week started as fixes that would have cost less than $50. That's the frightening part. It's usually not the failure that destroys the engine. It's the decision to wait. A tiny coolant leak, a worn engine mount, a loose belt, a faint vibration you barely notice. None of them seem serious on their own, but every mile driven with a small defect quietly puts extra stress on the parts around it. One neglected hose can eventually trigger an overheating event that damages the engine. One worn bearing can spread metal through an entire assembly. One small oil leak can slowly become a repair worth thousands. The dashboard warning light doesn't always appear when the damage begins. Sometimes it appears only after months of silent work have already taken their toll. That's why experienced mechanics rarely hear, "My engine failed out of nowhere." What they hear instead is, "It made a strange noise for a long time, but I thought it could wait." And that single sentence explains why two identical cars can end up with completely different futures. The owners who consistently reach 300,000 miles don't have magical engines. They simply stop small problems before they start a chain reaction. Whether it's a Toyota, Honda, Ford, Chevrolet, or BMW, the rule never changes. Protect the little parts, and the big parts usually protect themselves. Ignore the warning signs, and one inexpensive repair can quietly grow into one of the biggest bills you'll ever face. But here's what's even more surprising. Some drivers fix every problem immediately and still wear out their engines years earlier than they should, simply because of one routine they repeat almost every single morning. And chances are, you've done it too. Secret number 2. The first 5 minutes of every drive. Every single morning, millions of drivers unknowingly repeat a habit that slowly shortens the life of their engine. And the scary part is that many of them believe they're actually helping it. Some start the car and drive aggressively within seconds of turning the key. Others let it sit and idle for 5 or 10 minutes before moving. Most people assume one of those habits must be correct. But for modern engines, neither is the smartest approach. Experienced mechanics will often tell you they'd rather see a cold engine driven gently than left idling in the driveway for long periods every day. And that surprises a lot of people. Here's why it matters. After sitting overnight, engine oil needs a brief moment to reach and protect every moving component. If you demand full power immediately, those parts experience extra stress before optimal lubrication is established. But leaving the engine idling for too long creates a different problem. The vehicle warms up slowly while wasting fuel and spending more time operating below its ideal temperature. The owners who consistently achieve extraordinary mileage usually follow a much simpler routine. They start the engine, wait a short moment for oil pressure to stabilize, then drive away smoothly, keeping acceleration gentle until normal operating temperature is reached. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but repeating the wrong routine every cold morning for years is like rubbing a tiny piece of sandpaper across metal again and again. One pass changes almost nothing. Thousands of passes slowly create permanent wear. That's why some engines feel tight and smooth after hundreds of thousands of miles, while others become noisy and tired much earlier than expected. The difference isn't one dramatic mistake. It's the same small mistake repeated thousands of times. And just when you think temperature is the biggest threat to engine life, another hidden enemy is already at work. Unlike cold starts, you can't see it, hear it, or feel it until the damage has already begun, and it's responsible for ending the lives of countless engines long before their time. Secret number 3. Heat destroys what mileage doesn't. Most people think an engine only gets damaged if it completely overheats and breaks down on the side of the road. But experienced mechanics know something far more alarming. Sometimes a single overheating event can shorten an engine's life even when the car seems perfectly normal afterward. That's what makes heat so dangerous. It doesn't always destroy an engine instantly. It quietly weakens it from the inside, leaving damage that may not reveal itself until months or even years later. The temperature gauge drops back to normal, the warning light disappears, and the owner assumes everything is fine. But microscopic warping, stressed gaskets, weakened seals, and overheated fluids may already have started a chain reaction that slowly eats away at reliability. Then one day the engine begins consuming coolant, develops an unexplained misfire, or suddenly needs a repair costing thousands of dollars, and the owner never connects it to that one overheating incident they forgot about long ago. That's why experienced technicians often fear heat more than high mileage itself. A well-maintained engine with 300,000 miles can still run beautifully, while another with less than 100,000 miles may be heading toward failure because it spent years operating hotter than it should have. The smartest owners understand that preventing heat is far easier than repairing the damage it leaves behind. They pay attention to small coolant leaks before they become big ones, replace aging hoses before they burst, keep the radiator clean, and never ignore unusual temperature changes, no matter how brief they seem. These simple habits protect far more than the cooling system. They protect the entire engine. Because once excessive heat starts breaking down oil, seals, and internal components, the damage rarely stays in one place. It spreads quietly until one expensive day everything catches up at once. But as destructive as heat can be, the next hidden enemy attacks your engine every single time you drive, steals performance so gradually you may never notice it, and by the time most drivers realize what's happening, the damage has already been building for thousands of miles. Secret number 4. Your driving style writes your car's future. Your car remembers every decision you make behind the wheel, even the ones you've already forgotten. Every hard launch from a traffic light, every last-second stop, every aggressive corner leaves behind a tiny amount of mechanical stress. You won't hear it. You won't feel it. But your engine, transmission, brakes, and suspension keep the score. That's why experienced mechanics often say they can tell how a car has been driven long before they know its mileage. Two vehicles can have the exact same odometer reading and require completely different repairs simply because one spent years absorbing shock while the other was driven with patience. Imagine two identical cars leaving the dealership on the same day. Same engine, same transmission, same owner manual. One driver accelerates smoothly, looks ahead in traffic, and brakes progressively instead of waiting until the last second. The other races away from every stoplight, brakes aggressively, and treats every on-ramp like a qualifying lap. 5 years later, they may look almost identical parked side by side, but inside they're telling completely different stories. One transmission has absorbed thousands of unnecessary shock loads. One braking system has endured extreme heat over and over again. One engine has lived through countless high-stress cycles that slowly shorten its lifespan. None of those moments caused an immediate failure, but together they created years of extra where that can never be reversed. And that's exactly what makes this habit so dangerous. The damage is almost invisible until one expensive repair finally reveals how long it has been building. If you're enjoying these practical car secrets and want more videos that can help you avoid costly repairs and keep your vehicle running for years longer, This is the perfect time to subscribe because the most important lesson is still ahead. Here's the surprising part. Long-lasting cars aren't always driven slowly. They're driven smoothly. There's a huge difference. Smooth acceleration, gradual braking, and predictable inputs reduce stress across multiple systems at the same time, protecting the engine, transmission, brakes, suspension, and even the tires without costing a single extra dollar. It's one of the few habits that improves reliability every time you drive. Yet, even this doesn't explain why some taxis, delivery vans, and fleet vehicles routinely reach astonishing mileage, while many privately owned cars fail far earlier. Their biggest advantage has nothing to do with driving style. It comes from one simple principle that quietly determines whether a vehicle becomes a legend or a money pit. Secret number 5. Consistency beats expensive parts. After everything we've covered, you might expect the biggest secret behind a 300,000-mile car to be premium fuel, expensive synthetic oil, or high-end replacement parts. But that's where most people get it wrong. Experienced fleet managers, taxi companies, and delivery operators know something ordinary drivers often don't. Vehicles don't reach extraordinary mileage because they're built differently. They reach extraordinary mileage because they're treated differently from the very first day. In fact, many fleet owners don't wait for maintenance to become necessary. They assume every missed service, every ignored vibration, and every delayed repair is quietly borrowing reliability from the future. That's the mindset that changes everything. They don't wait for warning lights to force action. They don't postpone fluid changes because the car still feels fine. They don't keep driving with a noise and hope it disappears. They understand that every small decision is either adding miles to the life of the vehicle or taking them away. Now think back to the two identical cars from the beginning of this video. Same model, same engine, same day leaving the dealership. One reaches well over 300,000 miles while the other needs a major engine repair before 120,000. The difference usually isn't luck. It isn't the badge on the hood. And it isn't because one owner spent thousands more on expensive products. The difference is that one owner prevented problems while the other reacted to them. One built reliability a little at a time. The other slowly traded it away through delays, shortcuts, and "I'll deal with it later." That's the hidden principle behind almost every legendary high-mileage vehicle. Consistency beats expensive parts. Discipline beats miracle additives. Prevention beats repair. Oil was changed before it became dirty. Coolant was replaced before it became corrosive. Small leaks were fixed before they became major failures. Strange sounds were investigated before they turned into catastrophic damage. Nothing dramatic happened on any single day. But over 10 or 15 years, those ordinary choices created an extraordinary result. And that's the truth most drivers never hear. A car doesn't become a 300,000-mile legend because of one brilliant decision. It becomes one because hundreds of small, disciplined decisions quietly worked together long before anything ever went wrong. That's the invisible difference between the cars that die early and the ones that seem impossible to kill. If you found value in these insights and want more real-world automotive tips that help you save money and extend your vehicle's life, consider subscribing for more videos like this. And before you go, I want to ask you something simple. What's the highest mileage car you've ever seen or owned? Drop it in the comments. Let's see what these machines are really capable of.